All right. Hey, welcome back to the Go for CEO channel. This is John the Bomb. Building others means business. And look, I am excited once again to bring you one of these people that I got a chance to know on Clubhouse. Just a true, genuinely good person. Happens to be half Colombian, which is what I am. So we connected on that vibe, and we probably don't look traditional Colombian, right, Fred? But
No, no.
but hey, look, ladies and gentlemen, you're gonna have a great time today. He's the founder and principal of Liberties Management, some alternative investing styles and things that he created and has partnered with throughout his life, and just being able to build a really cool business. So excited to bring you Fred Moskowitz. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, John. Great to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Awesome, brother. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we're going to have a good time. The Go for CEO community, I think, is growing and really just learning from all different types of CEOs and founders
Mm.
and entrepreneurs as well. And you bring such a different style, right? A really cool cadence, the way you speak on Clubhouse. And I've just always loved
Thank
just
you.
kind of the genuineness that you always shared with beyond the voice, right? So tell us a little bit about, just a little bit of your background, but also just kind of bring us up to where you initially thought of Liberties Management and what kind of created that aspect of your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So I'll give you a little bit of my background. I started out uh, with a very successful career. I was working as a computer engineer, and I spent most of my time working in technology and startup companies. And it was so exciting. I got to participate in the birth of the internet and watch it just grow and explode. Um, as I said, I spent a lot of time working at technology startup companies, and I love that work. I loved the work. I loved seeing products come to life. But one thing that happened to me was I watched the entire industry I was in get turned upside down because we had the bursting of the dot-com bubble. And if you remember, then that was immediately followed by the September 11th terrorist attacks, right? So there was all this turmoil in the world. And so what happened as a result was that I suddenly realized I was way too dependent on the income for my job, dependent on that paycheck. And even though I loved the work I was doing, that there were so many things out of my control, all these circumstances, and it didn't matter how talented of an engineer I was or how dedicated of an employee I was. I learned that if things aren't going well in the economy or in the company, I could lose my job, right?
Mm.
From one day to the next. And it could be totally through no fault of my own. And so that brought me to the realization that I needed to have other sources of income than the paycheck for my job. And so with that, I turned to investing, and I got involved in investing, and specifically I was looking for investments that generate cash flow, investments that while you own them, they are paying you income and cash flow on an ongoing basis. And so that immediately steered me towards alternative investments. Those are ones that generate income. It's investing in assets, right? And assets can be a business. It can be owning a business. It can be owning rental real estate. Could be owning mortgage notes, royalties on a product, any of these things. Those are all assets that
Mhm.
we can invest in and own, and they generate income for us. And so that's something I really got involved with. I focused heavily on real estate and mortgage note investing. And now my entire focus is on mortgage note investing.
Mm.
And we can get into a little bit more about what that is, but that just gives you an idea. But what happened to me with the note investing is I started that out about a dozen years ago in 2010, right after the big mortgage crisis of, remember, 2008, 2009. And so a lot of mortgages were being sold at a significant discount. And it was almost like the ideal time to get involved in that industry and learn about it. And I was doing really well with it. And what happened over time was I was getting invited to speak at different industry conferences and different events, speaking at investor events. And people were coming up to me saying, "Hey, Fred, you have this mortgage note investing. You seem to be doing really well with it, but it sounds complicated. It sounds like there could be a lot of pitfalls. You could lose money, but you seem to have this figured out. So could I maybe invest money with you? Is there a way I could give you my capital and you invest it for me?" And for
Mm,
the longest time, I turned that down. I said, "No, I'm sorry. There's a lot of regulation around that. It gets into securities law and all this thing," but it kept coming up for several years. So finally, I decided, I'm going to be open. I'm going to take another look at this. But if I'm going to accept investor capital, I'm going to do it the right way. And so I embarked on that journey, started working with a securities attorney to do all the compliance work, do everything the proper way. And it took about 6 months. But after that, I finally had my first fund set up and running. And it's been a wonderful journey from there. But that's really a snapshot of what I've been through throughout my career. But it's been very rewarding. And I really base everything I do around building relationships with,
mm.
which is something that is a common thread between you and I. I know that's a big part of your business as well, John.
No, yeah, and things are caught, not taught. So go for CO community. I hope you just caught. He used 2001 and 2008 as markers to really kind of point out some things in his life, right? So Fred, you shared, right? You were happy, job, it's good, you're making money. Then you realize, well, wait, not everything is so cozy, right? I could be
Yeah.
disrupted. Then in 2008, you again see a disruption and you see an opportunity and get into this specific area, this little niche of things that you really enjoyed. And then people are knocking on your door to be like, hey, help me do that, right? So really
Yeah.
cool time to really kind of explore your entrepreneurial side. So you mentioned you start forming the essence of, right, Liberties management, understanding kind of the ideal client that you're looking after. People are approaching you. So what things did you do to ensure, I guess, the right team around you initially?
Oh, absolutely. In the business I'm in mortgage note investing, we utilize so many different vendors and service providers, consultants,
Mhm.
um, and that's super important. And it's all around building relationships because, yeah, the work we do may be transactional, but it's ongoing. It's ongoing. And it doesn't matter whether it's working with legal counsel, which, by the way, we have to work with legal counsel in every single state where we've bought a note, right?
Hmm.
So you can imagine, as you grow and expand, that network has to grow and expand. But so many service providers for doing data research and due diligence, to doing the loan servicing, right? Loans need to be serviced by a licensed loan servicer, and loan servicers are critical in this business. And different loan servicers are better at different types of assets, and so you end up with a few different ones, and we will place loans depending on which type of asset it is. And having, good relationship, good direct point of contact, so that if problems come up, you have a point of contact to reach out to, work with them on it, and always coming from a place of, hey, a problem happened. What does it take to solve this? What do we need to do? It's not about getting upset, placing blame, right? This is life.
Hmm.
Problems and challenges come up every day. And so I love being a solutions oriented person and immediately going to, okay, well, what do we do to fix this? What's needed? And then you put a plan together and take action right away.
Nate, Nate. So you really had you had a service in mind. You had a product, an area that you really wanted to concentrate on. Liberties management becomes an entity. It took you 6 months to kind of formulate the thing, right, to be able to be servicing other people, not just your own money. It
Correct.
seemed like, right. So then, when you think about having put that team together, right? You said servicers and vendors and different areas and loan service providers, right? What were some ways that you vetted that out? And did you have some ups and downs, I'm assuming, right? Of people that you figured like 6 months later, man, I thought that was the right people to do business with, and then it turned out it didn't. So what were some experiences with that?
Yeah. Oh, that's something ongoing. You need to be looking. It's important to look on an ongoing basis at that. All businesses go through different growth cycle. There's growing pains. You may have growing pains. Your vendors may have growing pains. Your vendors may change and pivot the direction of focus. And so it's important to be be mindful of that and stay abreast of changes. We have lots of changes in the industry through regulation, a lot of regulation around mortgage lending and loan servicing, all of these things. And so it's important to have a good network, have good experts providing you counsel in your business in the areas of focus they're in, whether it's legal or in tax, your CPA, your accountant, one of the most valuable people on your team that you will ever have. Um, it's always important to look at that and stay ahead of changes. Change is the one thing that's inevitable in this world, right? And so the best thing you can do is stay ahead of it. I love attending industry conferences. It's super important because that's where we all come together. We talk about what's happening in the industry, trends, what different people are doing. We learn from each other. We share with each other. The mortgage note investing business, it's a very tight knit community. It's a small niche, as we said, and we all know each other. We all know each other. So there will be times that we are competitors with each other on one day, and then another day we're collaborators because maybe we're bidding on a pool of loans against each other in one instance. But then on the other, we partner up together and do a larger deal, be a part of something larger than you can be yourself. And that's very common in my industry, but I really love that. I really love um, the idea of building relationships. And when you do that, you have support. You have support for your business. You're able to support others as well. And that is just a beautiful cycle to be a part of.
So, Fred, when you share like, hey, building relationships and that standard of what you've been able to put together, and obviously the colleagues and partnerships that you've been able to do, is there anything that you learned to do? Was there kind of a 7 question list, or did you put 90-day, 180-day, a year time frames to be able to then reassess those relationships? Would you say that was important, or something to that effect?
Yeah, it's definitely important to do this on an ongoing basis. I I like quarterly as a frequency that works well. Um, but beyond that, beyond the analysis and doing that, uh, it's about maintaining relationships, right? You might have heard this saying about building relationships. You want to dig your well when you're not thirsty, right? You don't want to be the one that makes a phone call to someone because you need something.
Hmm.
It's not a good place to come from. And so build like focus maintaining those relationships, even if it's just to check in, have a chat, that's okay, because I think it's important to always offer value, offer service to others. That comes back to you in so many ways, and usually it's not from the same place you directed your energy to. It'll come back from somewhere else, but always has a way of working out, and then everyone benefits from that. But back to your question, I would say about quarterly, that really works well for us. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, look, you're starting to put a really nice framework, in that journey that you're sharing with us here. So tell us a little bit, you formed the corp. You said that people came to you to ask you to invest their money, right? So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit of that dynamic. Was there a point also that you then went outside of your influence of people? How did you market the business? What are some ways that you stayed relevant in front of those people, and the transitioning of bringing in clients and exiting clients?
Yeah, a lot of our business actually comes in through referrals,
Okay.
which is beautiful. That's the highest compliment that any business could receive from their clients, is a referral, right? Um, and that's one of the biggest things. I mean, there's always, when it comes to operating an investment fund and raising capital, there's a lot of regulations and guidelines that have to be followed. You can't blatantly go out and solicit investors, and
Mm.
a lot of that. So that's certainly something to be educated about and be aware of. But the biggest way that I found, John, is the way we treat people. And let me tell you something, John. I'm an investor at heart. I've invested in many deals throughout my career, where I'm investing my own money. Maybe I'm investing out of my self-directed retirement account, investing in a big apartment complex deal, right? This is a deal where I love investing in real estate, but I have no business operating a 500 unit apartment building, but somebody else does, and that's their expertise. So I'll go and invest in their deal as a passive investor, and they
Okay.
will execute on their business plan, do it really well, and generate a profit for the investors, right? That's how a passive investment works. And so I've invested in a lot of deals, and I've had plenty of opportunities where I was the client, I was the investor, and I saw how not learned how to not treat your customers, not treat your investors, right? Maybe I made a good return on my investment, a good profit, but the customer experience was, let's just say, suboptimal. And
Hmm.
so I took a lot of those lessons and incorporated that into my own business, because the last thing I want is for an investor to come, and then and you may have seen this before. You participate in an investment, you get assigned an account number, and then you never hear from the person ever again, right? You get a statement in the mail, once a year. You get your tax forms at the end of the year, 1099 or K1 comes in, and that's it. And I
Hmm.
said, I'm not going to do, that's not how I'm going to operate my business. I come from a place of building relationships, offering education, offering value, and having one-on-one conversations, because I don't seek to be transactional. I seek to build a lifelong relationship with my clients, because we may do a deal, it may last for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, right? But at the end, the money goes back to the investor, and then you want them to come back to you and say, hey, Fred, this was great. What's next?
Hmm.
Right? And so I always seek to build lifelong financial relationships, because over the lifetime of your career, that can be so rewarding, both financially as well as energetically.
Sure. No, there's a lot of value, right? And you start building that connection and all of a sudden you don't have a client, you have a friend that trusts you and really starts, like you said, referring you business. So all this could be kind of like in the sphere of marketing. So give us a little bit of insight. What do you do, right? Because I always ask, well, hey, build relationships, build relationships, build relationships, right? But what does that really mean to someone, right? So give us a little bit of insight from your perspective. I'll give you from mine, right? So I'll send a text message every once in a while, right? I ran into an email that you and I had, and I was like, oh man, I messed up, and I didn't see an email from a few months ago, and I reached back out to you. Now you're on the Go for CEO channel, right? So, like to me, those are little touches. But from your perspective, what are you doing to really build relationship? Is it a lunch? Is it sending them a gift? What are some secrets?
All of the above, all of the above. If I travel a lot, I do a lot of speaking and
Mhm.
conferences, right? Getting ready to head out to Phoenix, Arizona tomorrow. But wherever I go, I am purposeful. While I'm there, I'll spend a few extra days, meet with the people I know in my network that are out there. I always do that, even if there's not specific business to be transacted. It's an opportunity to meet in person, have some conversations, exchange some great ideas, and do that. I always seek to do that. It's something I learned from. There was a great book I read a number of years ago called Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi.
Mm.
And he talked about this. He worked in like as a management consultant, traveling all over the place. But wherever he would go, he would set up these dinner parties because he would be in some city where he was by himself. So he would host these dinner parties and bring together, a dozen people or so. And he got pretty well known for that. All of a sudden, everyone was like, "Hey, I want to get on your schedule, get on your list. When are you coming back to my city? I don't want to miss your next event." And so that was a takeaway I learned. So always seeking to meet in person. I put out a newsletter. Here's another thing. I write a newsletter, right? It goes out once a month. I have nothing to sell in my newsletter. Maybe I'll talk about my book, but that's about it. I don't have any like high ticket sales items in there. Um, if you wanted to buy my book, you can just go on Amazon and find it. But it's really about sharing ideas, what I'm up to, trends I'm seeing in the investment space where I'm active in. And people often will reply back to me. We'll have a dialogue going. And I love that. I love that. I always love hearing from other investors, learning about what they're doing, because everyone's working in their own niches. And some people are really seeing a lot of success. So it's great to learn, and then you can take in some of the lessons that they've been through and incorporate that into your own life.
I love it. I love it. So, man, so much wisdom there, impacting the way that you can really cultivate something with someone else, right? And truly get to a relationship status instead of a transactional status. So, can you walk us through maybe this last part of, what does a experience of the client like go through? And I know at the end of our conversation here, we're going to go through CEO, which is client experience, engagement, employee engagement, and then operational excellence. But if you take us through the journey of a client right now, what is kind of that sense? Is there a minimum to do business with you? Obviously, I know there's compliance things that you may not be able to touch on, but
Yeah.
what are some things that you could do to share of how people can engage with you?
Well, most of the time, people end up engaging with me. Either they read my book or my newsletter got forwarded to them by a friend, or it's a direct introduction from investors. People may hear me speak on a podcast interview or speak on stage at an investment conference, and they reach out to me. Sometimes people just ask for information. They want to learn. Maybe they want to learn about note investing because they want to do it themselves, buy notes on the secondary market and get involved in that. And that's great. That's great. You can check out my book. There's other books on the topic. I'll refer people. Um, and so I always love having dialogues because, as I said, everyone comes from a different place, and there's always so many experiences and stories to share. But that's really where it starts. I'm very focused on building direct, personable relationships with people, and that's one of the pillars of my business. And as I mentioned earlier, I've had lots of lessons about how not to operate an investment business, right? I know because I'm an investor too, right? So I do what others don't do so that we will get the results that others can't have.
I love it. I love it. That's a good saying, right? Is where you're able to do things that they won't do, you're going to get results that way, right? So,
Yeah.
so goes. Let's kind of go into the Liberties management. I mean, when you think about just the function of your business, the way that you've been able to market it, you've shared the relationships you built, the vendors that you work with, the operations and stuff. What other areas do you see as the next 3 to 5 years of growth for Liberties management and what you're doing?
Yeah, great question. A lot of it is around having tightened up our proprietary processes, whether it's for deal flow, for finding notes to buy, or conducting due diligence, updating things with changes in the industry and the business at large. And during the pandemic was a great opportunity to do that, right? To really make sure that your business processes are well documented and tightened up and updated. And it's great. Something we do from time to time. We may have a big acquisition opportunity, and so we'll need extra help to perform due diligence. Well, we have all of our due diligence processes documented, so it's very easy to bring in a consultant contractor with expertise, and we'll say, here's our process, and they can be up and running, get off the ground on day one. And that's powerful because if there's a deal you're conducting due diligence on, you want to be able to react quickly. You want to be able to make a decision. It's a go or no go very quickly. And if it's a go, you can spend more time digging deeper, but you want to be able to exclude a bad deal as quickly as possible so that you're not expending time and money looking at something that's not going to be a good fit. And so those are some of the things where we really have found a lot of success in.
I love that. I chuckle a little bit because I had to learn that the rough way or the tough way, as they say. The last few years, as things were going through the pandemic and people approaching me for commercial lending and those types of things, right? You just start vetting out in a different way. You start, asking certain questions that allow you to be like, okay, this isn't a good deal for me, or maybe I could refer it to someone that's
Yeah.
better position, or just let them down gently, but also care for that person or business that's calling you and say to them, here's the steps that you need to come back to me, right? So it's interesting that you put it that way. So look, Fred, what a cool interview. I've obviously appreciated you from afar and getting to know you on Clubhouse, and obviously our connection with the Colombian side. So one of the things that we do to end our interviews is go through a CEO steps, right? Is client experience, engagement, and operational excellence. And I know you touched on different areas already, and it's been great to know that. So what would you say, high level, kind of just a differentiator for you and Liberties Management that you could put out there? And then at the end, we'll talk about how to get a hold of you and try to interact with you and buy your book and everything. But
Right.
C is client experience. If you put a cherry on top, what do you think is the differentiator about Liberties Management and how you guys treat client experience?
The way to sum it up is I strive to provide white glove service, white glove treatment. And that all starts with building a personable relationship, building a relationship we know every single one of our clients very well. It's not a transactional business, and that approach has served us very well, very well. That's the way we set ourselves apart, because I've seen so much about what others do, and from that I've learned what not to do, how not to conduct myself, how not to conduct business, and it's very powerful. And people really notice. People really notice when you apply personal touches of all kinds, maintain relationship, build a relationship, and focus on that. It's one of the core pillars of our business.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So, the E is for engagement. And you talked about, making that progressive step to build relationships with vendors and providers and clients and all that stuff. So when you think about engagement, what's kind of the cherry on top of that one for Liberties Management and what you do?
With engagement, it's staying in touch, staying in touch. If you're working with vendors, if they need something from you, respond immediately. Be organized so that when a document is needed or whatever it might be, you can say, yes, here you go. And immediately they have it. Be organized so that you're efficient, and you know what's expected of you, so you can get prepared for that. And that like, don't make people's jobs harder than it already is.
Mm,
I want it so that someone that's working with me, a vendor, service provider, that they love working with me. You know why? Because if I send an email to them or a phone call, it's going to get taken. It's going to get moved up to the top of the list because of the way you treat people, right? Treat people the way that you want to be treated, and go out of your way to make people's work easier, efficient. Don't, if you have to send a bunch of things, don't send 8 of 10 things and then dawdle on the last 2. And then you have this thing that's just hanging out there forever and ever. I'm sure you see this all the time in your
mhm.
business, right? Like, be organized, send the whole package, have everything buttoned up nicely so that people can work on whatever it is that they need to do, and it goes smoothly for them.
I love. I mean, it's so true. And you see the difference in that whole process, right? When you're dealing with someone up front that has their stuff together, right? For lack of better words, it really makes a difference to then channel the experience, the relationship, the worthiness to refer them to you or back to you. Stuff like that. So it's really cool. So last thing, operational excellence. We didn't go too deep into this part, but what would you say, is that, again, cherry on top of, like, either systems, processes, technology, things that you're doing to really make sure that Liberties Management is on point with operational excellence?
Yeah, I would say the most important thing is document everything as if you had to hire someone to do this job, and you were going to hand it off to them. Think about this. How could you fire yourself from your
Mm,
business and hand off everything because you're going to focus on something else? It's all about the idea of working on your business as opposed to working in your business, right? Document everything. Even if you don't have someone else working on that, do it as if you did, because maybe it's something you're not going to come back to for 6 months, and then you have to do it again. But you can look at your process and say, oh, yes, this is what I did last time. Now you're going to be producing consistent results, and that's going to help you to deliver your work with excellence and mastery. So work on those processes, get them down, because you may need to hand it off to someone else in the future, or you that maybe coming back to you, but it's been so long that you need a refresher. And so you'll have that.
What a golden nugget, right? If you get your operations right, you get your processes right, you get
Yeah.
documented right, boy, you could replace yourself, right?
Yeah, it's the idea of the book,
Yeah,
you know, that book, The E-Myth by
yeah,
Michael Gerber.
yeah,
That's what that book is
yeah.
all about.
I literally was just in a previous meeting talking to a friend of mine, small business owner, and that struggle of they want to do everything themselves, and it's because they haven't put a process, put some SOPs down, put some things that you could duplicate yourself, right? Once you have that process and that system, you get McDonald's where 17-year-olds or 16-year-olds are running your multi-million-dollar business, right? So it's crazy. So
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And think about this, whatever business you're in, could you handle 10 times the amount of clients, of volume, whatever you do? What if tomorrow that was 10x? Could you handle it?
hmm.
How long would it take you to scale up? Can you do it? And you know, some people that let's say you're running a business where you're in my business buying notes and mortgages, right? How many notes and mortgages can one company handle? Is it 10? Is it 100, 1,000, right? Whatever it is. What would you do if you could acquire all these assets for free? How many could you handle and still be able to do an effective job?
Hmm. I love
It's
that.
it's
I
an
love it.
interesting concept to think about when you're looking at processes and scaling, because if you have things down right, you know, you could go and hire a team, do whatever you need to do and say, here's our process, this is how we do it, and then they can go to work and hit the ground running, and that's a beautiful thing.
Oh, so powerful and very true for, many, many millions of people that run small and medium-sized businesses that are entrepreneurs inside of companies that are thinking, how do I improve from the inside and become valuable to that company and those types of things. So awesome stuff, Fred. Well, let people know website. How do we get a hold of you? What's your book? Where is it on Amazon? Those types of things, communication side.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I love connecting with investors and building relationships, as I've spoken about today. And the best way to connect with me is on my website, which is fredmoskowitz.com. Or if you prefer an easier spelling, you can go to giftfromfred.com.
Mm.
And I'll be happy to send out to anyone that's interested. I have a special report about node investing and what it is and how it works. Happy to send that out. And my book is available on Amazon. It's called The Little Green Book of Node Investing. You can go to Amazon, look for it by title or by my name, Fred Moskowitz, and it will come up. And one more way to get a hold of me, if you prefer to use your mobile device, you can text the keyword money to 215-461-4433, and then just follow the prompts.
I love it. I love it. You even
Yeah.
got that automated. So cool, man. Well, Fred, thank you so much for joining the Go for CEO family here. Hopefully in the next 6 to 12 months, we get another opportunity to kind of touch base with you. We'd love to build that relationship with you, obviously with the Go for CEO community. Hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, if I didn't share with you at the beginning of the video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, become a member of the Go for CEO community, leave a message for Fred and in the comments, and we're going to pin a special one in there every time that we put up a video as well. And, we're nearing 125 to 150 videos coming up soon.
Wow.
And I think we need more subscribers to really learn from guys like Fred and some of those special people that we've had on the Go for CEO channel. So thanks, Fred, so much for coming on.
Thank you, John. Thank you for having me. And thank you for doing the good work you're doing, bringing all this valuable content out to the world. And I think that's wonderful. That is such a service to the entrepreneur and business community. And so I thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.